Hi, we're here to tell you the story of Daniel 3, and we're going to tell it from this book, Bob Hartman telling the Bible, and it's called The Boys Who Like to Say No. Those of you who were with us for Zoom Family Worship a few weeks ago will remember that due to lockdown we're a bit short of characters, and Matt here played all of the boys who like to say no with his different hats on. So that's going to happen again. Please join in with the no's in the story. We would also like you to join in with the Grumpy King, who makes a noise like this. Great. And there is some places for some musical accompaniment as well. If you want to make musical noises, feel free. We're not going to. We've got enough to cope with. Okay, so here goes with the story from Daniel 3. One day, King Nebuchadnezzar's herald made an important announcement. All prefects and satraps, all magistrates and judges, all councillors and governors, all big shots and hobnobs must report immediately to the plain of Dura. King Nebuchadnezzar has a surprise for you. When the officials got there, they found a golden statue 3 meters wide and 30 meters tall. It was the biggest statue they had ever seen, and gathered around the bottom of the statue was the biggest band they had ever heard. Then the king cleared his throat and took a deep breath.
People of all nations and stations and languages, people of all places and races and climes, people of all landscapes and body shapes and backgrounds, people of all time zones and hormones and kinds, at the sound of the trumpet, the trigon, the horn and the bagpipe, the oboe, the zither, the harp and the lyre, the wahoo, the fani, the honk and the oompa, all of you must bow down and worship this golden statue, and anyone who does not will be thrown into a hot and humid, bright and blazing, flaming, fiery furnace.
Wow. Well, while the king caught his breath, he gave the signal and the band began to play. Give a signal. Ta-da! At once, everyone fell down and worshipped the statue. Well, almost everyone. Because there were 3 officials standing at the back who did not bow down and who did not worship the statue. You know who they were. Shadrach.
No.
Meshach.
No.
And Abednego.
No.
They were all grown up now. The men who liked to say all together.
No. No. No.
Now, most people knew King Nebuchadnezzar as the great and powerful ruler of Babylon, but anyone who knew him well knew him simply as the king who liked to say, grr.
Grrr.
And when he saw the 3 men standing at the back, that's exactly what he did.
Grrr.
He snarled, "Who dares defy my order?"
Grrr.
He growled, "Who dares insult my God?"
Grrr.
He roared, for he was good at this. "Who dares? Who dares? Who dares?" As it happened, there were several satraps and big shots and bobnobs nearby, native Babylonians who didn't much like the idea of these foreigners from Jerusalem having such important jobs, who knew exactly who dared. "Their names are Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego," they told the king.
Grrr.
Snarled Nebuchadnezzar, "Bring them to me at once." "Well," snapped the king when the men were brought before him, "you heard the order and failed to obey. Will you worship the statue now?"
No.
Said Shadrach, "We will not worship your idol. Our God has told us that that would be wrong."
No.
Said Meshach, "And we will not forget our God or his law or the land he gave us, the land from which we were taken."
No.
Said Abednego, "And we believe that our God will not forget us." "Then off to the furnace," roared the king.
Grrr.
Nebuchadnezzar grrred all the way to the furnace.
Grrr.
Make it hot, he growled, 7 times hotter than it's been before, and tie them up tight so there's no chance for escape. And so tightly bound, the men who like to say,
No. No. No.
were thrown into the furnace. But the flames were so hot that the men who threw them in died immediately. Charred, sizzled, burnt to a crisp, noted the herald. Things were different, however, for Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego. They weren't boiling and they weren't burning. They weren't even sweating and they weren't alone.
God is with you.
They could just make him out, moving through the flour. A flash of orange hair, flaming red fingers and a pair of burning eyes. The angel flickered like flames before them now, red and orange, yellow, blue, white. And then one by one he touched a finger to the ropes that bound them, and they smoked and sizzled and burned right through. But there was not so much as a blister on the skin of Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego. And so the angel whispered again,
God is with you.
"You've got nothing to fear." And a smile ignited on one cheek and burned like a fuse across his face. And then the angel took them by the hand and led them on a walking tour of the fiery furnace. They shuffled their feet to the hot white coals, and they ran their hands along red hot walls. They filled their lungs with black hot air, and they blew out fat smoke rings. Meanwhile, outside the furnace, Nebuchadnezzar's lips were no longer twisted in an angry snarl. No, they hung open and limp with amazement. Like that. "I thought we threw 3 men into the furnace," he said. "But look, there are 4 men in there now." The herald crept closer and looked, and then he turned to the king, his face red with heat and dripping with sweat. "It's an angel, your majesty, a creature from heaven. Perhaps even the God that these men refuse to forget. If so, he is a very powerful God indeed, for they are unharmed." Nebuchadnezzar leapt to his feet and ordered Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego to come out. This time they didn't say no. They waded through the flames in the mouth of the furnace, kicking coals as they walked. But when they went to thank the king and the angel just smiled and turned to smoke in their hands, leaving nothing but a whisper that curled around their heads and then disappeared. Don't forget, God
Is with you.
Immediately, the officials gathered round to have a closer look. The satraps and the prefects inspected them carefully. Not a trace of smoke, they noted. The councillors and governors touched their hair. Not even singed, they cried. Finally, the king himself spoke up.
Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, the supreme God. They did not forget him and he did not forget them, but sent his angel to save them. I therefore order that from now on anyone who says anything bad about this God shall be chopped up into tiny little pieces. And what is more, I shall promote Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego to even higher positions in my kingdom.
Wow. Then he looked squarely at the 3 friends. "Surely," he said, "you can say yes to that." Now, Shadrach looked at Meshach, and Meshach looked at Abednego, and Abednego looked at Shadrach. And then, all together, they said,
No. No. No.
"No problem.